Ah, it
But
is in progress. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
good. Okay, I think in my picture I cut off Shakyamuni Buddha's head, so now I moved so it's not okay. Good. All right. Ish. Okay, so that's just find a comfortable seat, and then we can talk more. All right. Good. 5 minutes after. Right. I think the a lot of time when we're attending teachings, there's also talking. Yeah. So it's more using the different part of the brain when we attend like discourse or teachings. So let's just try to kind of using um, a different part of the brain. I don't know which part, but more like more so we combine shamatha with the kind of a concentration with the analytical in the way that we meditate all those philosophical points. So we just start briefly, quick, like for about 5 minutes or so, just to set our intention, our motivation, as well as settle the mind. So I'm just gonna guide it briefly, and then just that you actually work on it. So just take a few deep breaths, which help settling the body, speech, and mind. And then while you're doing that, think of the motivation, your individual motivation, perhaps for today, that for the next couple hours, how you like to engage, and the reason for your engaging in this session or for the rest of the day. Then you can also think about a bigger picture, a bigger motivation that perhaps spams into your entire life. So take a few more breaths, settle the mind, and set your intention. Then with the body, as well as after that, do a quick scan of the body. And mostly is to address any discomforts you have at this moment. Yeah, if knees hurt, if you know how to adjust it, do that. If the back hurts, also do that. Find a very comfortable posture for your meditation. Then here we try to find, the posture that's at ease, with no pain, and supportive in terms of, having a straight spine as possible. And relax your face. Then we choose, perhaps in the first session, we just choose the breath as the object of your meditation. And slowly, slowly come out. Take a few more deep breaths and expand your awareness to your entire body and to your environment, the space you're in. Good. If you need time to stretch, do. If not, continue. I think I'm just going to quickly recap of what we did yesterday. Yes, move. If you feel like you need to move, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so before we do the recap, is there any feedback or any questions that you need more clarification from yesterday's shamatha practice? Can either type in the chat if you do have one. Okay, so here I think it's also good. So I was just gonna do a quick recap because we've got new friends here on site, but it's also really good to kind of have these elements refreshed in the mind. So when you're in meditation, you kind of, know what you're actually trying to do, right? So there are, when we engage in shamatha practice, you choose an object of your meditation and you stay for the entire period of time. And when you're being guided, it's a bit hard to engage, kind of, okay, so if the teacher's going to leave for 20 minutes or an hour, right? So, but when you are doing it yourself at home, like, okay, I'm just going to, I know I can focus for this long, and that's where I'm staying on. So for example, when you do home practice, if you know you can focus like really good, sharp concentration for 10 minutes, right? You do for 10 minutes, stay. You can set a timer, 10 minutes. But gradually you may wanna increase it, right? Like to 15 minutes. And then you do it for a while, steadily, good quality. Then stay with the same object. And then 24 minutes. Then once that's stable, like, for a period of time, maybe a few months, that you can, when you can do 24 minutes, quite stable, no distractions or little distractions, but you can always bring your attention back, then that's good. And you stabilize that and then extend for maybe 7 more minutes. We put 7 more minutes on top of 24 minutes. That's already half an hour, right? And then you stabilize that and then you move on, right? But not in one day. So for example, if you know that you can do very well 30 minutes, so you do 30 minutes and then you take a break, another 30 minutes, let's say if your day, you structure your meditation, let's say you only have 1 hour a day, right? And you can do pretty much really good, you divide it, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, or 30 minutes, like how, depends on where you are. But in the beginning of shamatha meditation, stability is important, that you want to be able to establish it so that it's stable. And then we work on clarity. Yeah, once it's very, very stable, then, not that we just don't work on clarity, but just more like once it's stable, it will be clear anyway. So the mind is sharp and then you have very clear focus. Okay, so then so there is object of meditation, and we apply like vigilance and mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is that you don't forget the object. So for example, some thoughts come. So I used to give the example that, for example, you can smell something. The next door is making a very nice cupcake. Then you smell the chocolate or vanilla or whatever that you like, right? You smell it. So the mind already sensed, okay, I sense nice smell, a cake. Wow. And then that leads you to see, oh, last time, when did I have that cake last time? Oh, it was maybe in a nice bakery somewhere. Okay, and then that leads to somewhere else. So the next thing you know, you're somewhere on the beach. So you want to bring it back. As soon as you notice that your mind is not on your chosen object, you bring it back. So that's what mindfulness is here. That's how we use the term mindfulness is defined. Yeah. So as soon as you notice you're somewhere else but here, you bring it back. And introspection or vigilance is another element, mental factor that we apply here, is that when that's it, right? Whenever you notice that your mind is elsewhere, you just simply bring it back. It's introspection. And so shamatha practice is Jatuma Tansen Palmo say it is simple, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. Yeah. And then people would feel that, oh, I must achieve certain levels, and that actually creates more stress. So actually we just do what we can, giving our conditions. So there's no, like, we don't, even though on the books there's always talk about achieving shamatha, right? But when you actually apply to the practice, I think being able to relax is also quite a good thing that we remind ourselves not to get too stressed out, because that relates to the some of the meditative experiences that you might experience when the energy is blocked or is too tight, and then it creates, maybe you get headaches or imbalance of the body, and that's also something that kind of, well, it's obstacles is nice to look and work with, but also at the same time, it kind of, we need to find a fine balance in between. Okay, so that's just the reminder and recap for yesterday. So that's just, I think this group likes practices. So that's a vibe I'm getting. So I just get into more practice and less talking, if that's okay with you. Yeah. Okay, good. This group on site says yes. Okay. You too online? Good. All right. So let's see. Madelinda, you are sitting on a chair or cushion? Yeah, Mark
Yeah,
John.
I'm sitting cross-legged
chair.
on my bed.
Oh, okay,
But
good.
yes.
I couldn't see. That's no problem. And Hendrik and Barbara on cushions, yeah?
I'm more on a chair or sofa.
Okay. No, it's also good. Okay. And Barbara's on cushion, and Daniel?
Cross-legged on my bed like Magdalena. Same thing.
Okay, perfect. That's also good. All right, good. And Tara? Because I can't see you
On
guys.
bed,
You're on the bed.
cross-legged,
Cross-legged.
cross-legged.
Okay, then we are the same. Okay, good.
Sorry for being late, by the way.
Oh, no worries. Okay, cool. Let's start. Okay. And yes, okay. Let me ring the gong. So how it's gonna work is gonna be 24 minutes. The reason why I give the length is because it's easier for you to structure. Yeah, okay. It's not kind of give you a pressure that you must do it. And so if you find 24 minutes too long, you just take your own break in between. And I can guide you how to take breaks in between, kind of mental break. It doesn't have to be a physical thing, because once you in a position, if you kind of loosen up, then you have to spend more time constructed again. So it's more of a mental pause and then like relaxation, then you come back. Okay, good. 24 minutes. So again, because I was talking and you were listening, the mind, of course, it's engaging, maybe more thinking kind of process. So take a few breaths to just come into your body. So bring awareness to your body again. And then if taking a few deep breaths is helpful to settle the mind, go ahead and do that at your own pace, about 5 to 7 breaths. And remember our 7-point posture that we covered yesterday while sitting. So you can scan your body first to see if there's any discomforts and address that, because we'll be, for example, for some people, 24 minutes quite long. So you want to adjust your body so that you can maintain as still as possible for 24 minutes. Then you also scan the body to see if you hold any tensions anywhere. The jaws, between the eyebrows, the neck, the shoulders, the hands. Just relax them. Or just bring your awareness to these points that have tensions and just say relax and let go. And your abdominal area should be relaxed as well. So we're not holding it in. Just let it go. And no one's watching, so don't worry. So once we come to a very stable posture, and there's a sense of relaxation and ease with the posture, then you decide on an object of meditation. In this case, maybe we start with breath. That's always nice as it creates stability. So even with the breath, you could still choose different aspects of the breath. For example, the rise and fall of your abdominal area, or expansions of your entire body and contractions of entire body in accordance with the breath, right? As you inhale, perhaps there's expansions. When you exhale, there's contraction. And these are all natural. You don't have to force it. You're just being the observer of it. And even more of a subtle point of concentration could be a point in front of your nostrils where you could feel the energy, like the air coming in and out. And as you can see, there's 3 aspects of the breath in relations to your body. The sensation of the body, that is, one is the grossest one, I mean the coarsest one, the bigger options is the entire body, then rise and fall of your abdominal or somewhere in front of your nostrils. But here we pick one. So you choose one. And then we just turn our attention to that chosen object. And I heard some feedback that when we some people turn the attention to their breath because they look so carefully, they kind of feel they're out of breath or they couldn't breathe anymore. If that happens, yes, just relax. Think of something else and come back. Here is really being the observer of the breath. So if you start to feel that you lose your concentration, then you just, let go, totally let go, and relax for a few moments while still outwardly maintain your sitting posture. And of course, at the same time, if there's any pain, also address that. And then, take a long enough of a break. And then when you're ready, just come back. And again, there's a sequence to enter shamatha, right? So bring attention maybe first to settle your body back to the posture that works for you today. And then bring awareness back again to your chosen object. And then continue. So having a break is perfectly fine, especially when it's a led practice. But when you're on your own, that's when discipline comes, right? You start the session thinking, okay, today I have 30 minutes to meditate, and you continue to that. But in between, if it gets too much, you can always take breaks. Then slowly just expand your awareness. We'll shift your attention to your entire body and to the space you're in. And we take a short break, maybe for those who need stretching. Yeah, okay. Then we take a 10 minutes break here, if that's okay. Yeah, good, 10 minutes.
Good.
We're slowly coming. You can relax still. I'm just gonna point out a few theories, or like more like talking right now. Well, not very long, but it was in the handout that I sent out, Tara sent out to you all. There's a book called The Attention Revolution. This book, it has a great details on the steps of shamatha. Is written and taught by Dr. Alan Wallace. He's a very great teacher on shamatha, the contemporary teacher nowadays. He's rooted in Tibetan Buddhism, also in Theravada system as well, and he's very anyway. It's great, but of course we also have Venerable Rene that was just here in July, who has guided us shamatha practice. He's really also my teacher. So yeah, if you have an opportunity to practice with any of these teachers, that'll be really great. But what I know is Lama Allen's now in retreat, long-term retreat. So he really teaches now. So it's another thing is that if you aspire to kind of do more practice with certain teachers, don't wait, because we're all getting older. and then sometimes the teachers just decide, okay, they've done enough teachings, they want to do retreats, yeah. So then they don't teach anymore. So it's really good that if you have any opportunity to attend those teachings or retreats, do that sooner than later. All right, so in this book, they listed as 9 stages of the shamatha stages that you will go through. Last few pages, 174, 175. It tells you what's kind of more like a self-assessment that you can see, okay, where you are, and then, sometimes I have the illusion I have reached samadhi, but really when you check, oh, no. So, so yeah, go check, and then just don't get too caught up as to, trying to get it. But like, once in a while, take a look and see, where you are and what kind of symptoms you have. But so in this book and also in the classic literature as well, I just want to kind of list it out here that's related to what we spoke about yesterday about actually cultivating a lifestyle outside of your mat. Like the time that we spend outside the cushion is longer than the time we're on the cushion. So it's also something that we need to attend to so that it helps with our meditation. So classically in the Indian and Tibetan Buddhism Buddhist traditions, there are five or 6 prerequisites. It's listed here. So I'm just going to read it out for you. 1 is to have a supportive environment. 2 is to have few desires. 3 is to being content. 4 is to have few activities. 5 is to have ethical discipline. 6 is to dispensing the compulsive thoughts. Okay, it's just that it sink in a bit. From this book, from the attention, yes, revolution. I think so. 2 activities. Okay, there's a question on site. What does it mean to have few activities? Wow. Okay, I think Lama Allen went into great details, but my understanding is that, oh, okay, and also other teachers will, which I will quote later. To have fewer activities means, well, I can only say for me is, for example, you have a job, you have to go to do job. There's because you need to live, right? So, but is there any activities that's not helping you? Like activities of the body? Okay, then also exercise, right? Like we also need to exercise. Some people will say, okay, well, just to maintain the health of the body, you also need to exercise. So that's not unnecessary. So evaluate your life and to see, okay, what kind of activities are not necessary. That's not conducive, not helpful. You know, to live an ethical life, to live, if you want to be a yogi, you want to be a yogi, that sounds, if you are aspire to be engaged in this spiritual practice, is there anything you can do to reduce the kind of activities that are not supportive? I think that that's very individual. Of course, you know, teachers will give their certain suggestions, right? But more like activities that not necessary. But it comes naturally anyway, because I think the more and more you engage in this spiritual path, or certain things just don't feel interesting anymore. Right. I have a friend telling me once he finished his Discovering Buddhism course. He said, well, he has no desire to just hang out with people and talk about nothingness, like talking about gossip or who does what. It just naturally not interesting anymore. So it will come naturally anyway. But in the beginning, maybe we just be mindful of what kind of activities are not helpful, right? And which will help to us to be content. Right, and then have few desires. These are all kind of linked together. That's helpful to you know, get all these prerequisites. But like living an ethical life is, I think, it's fundamental to get to that point. But really, you just need to look to see. Okay, it will happen naturally anyway, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yes. A supportive, I'm asked to repeat the list, a supportive environment. That also includes not just the physical environment as well as friends, families, you know. Having few desires, that's something that we can do ourselves. Being content is also something we can do ourselves. Having few activities that we just talked about. And ethical discipline, which we talked about quite a lot yesterday. It's okay.
That was fine. I've not understood, but if you just repeat it first.
Okay. And then dispensing with compulsive thoughts, which might be more difficult, you know, like that again is about watching the mind. Yeah.
And control thought.
Yeah, the thoughts are
Negative thought.
compulsive, meaning that almost like uncontrollable thoughts.
Basically letting go.
That yes, and be more aware of its arising and falling, and then when it comes, you first you have to be aware that it's there, right? And then if it comes, well, traditionally we apply antidotes, which is a different subject, but it's more like, okay, yeah, that's nicely tie into the next quote I want to share here. So are we good with that? Yes. Okay, more questions here. Can you guys hear? Okay, then I repeat. Yeah, I repeat the question. Yes.
Yeah, can you a little bit more?
Being
Like
content.
How do you frame this content?
Okay. So how do we frame being content? Well, you guys can also contribute. I mean, not contribute, like share your thoughts as well. Being content. Be happy with what you already have. So for example, how do we link to, you know, like we have negative mental afflictions such as attachment, right? So how does that happen, attachment? How does attachment happen? Yes. Yes, which class you have been to? That's a textbook answer. Yes, the text. You looked it up yesterday. So the answer was, and it's a textbook answer, is that you exaggerate the positive qualities of certain object, object, and then you exaggerate it. Okay, maybe you have a taste of how good it is, but the mind exaggerates it and make it even more beautiful than it actually is, and then attachment wanting to possess or wanting to, the grasping happens, right? Lama Yeshe used, I heard that because it's not his first language, so he would say grasping, he said grasshopping, grasshopping. So that's how I remember grasping. But anyway, so that's what attachment happens. So being content perhaps is the opposite of being able to be happy with what you have, and then the opposite happens, you notice, and then see, okay, is it necessary? All right, good. Another question here, yes.
Your friend took a Discovering Buddhism course. Was
Mhm.
it recommended? Where
Yes. Where is it? Discovering Buddhism? Okay, I'm asked to recommend a Discovering Buddhism course. Okay, I have to say, Laksam actually did a whole series of Discovering Buddhism course with Venerable Robina that went on for 2 years, I think. Right?
One.
13. One year, okay, because Tara and Christine were helping to write the course material or at least edit it. And so currently there are a few Discovering Buddhism courses that's ongoing right now. One is with London, Jamyang Linden. I'm the TA for that course. And in the US, it's also online currently. So if you need to know more, we can talk offline. Yes.
No, just I would say for the one that happened in Langsam. If you go to the Langsam YouTube channel, the recording.
It's online. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The recording is online. Yes. And yeah. So, but when you are enrolled in a course that's ongoing, you get support from the teachers as well as TAs, and then you have to write exams as well. So that helps you to kind of digest the material a bit more, right? Like Tara is also TAing a lot of courses. All right. So any other feedback? Then I want to share also this book, Steps on the Path of Enlightenment, by my favorite Geshe. That's a picture. Geshe Lumdup Sopa. And he already passed away, but he is the teacher of Lama Yeshe. And so the reason why I brought it up, brought it out today is because this series of books is on Lamrim. So Lamrim is the stages, the gradual stages of the path to enlightenment. And this is his commentary on Lama Tsongkhapa's classic Lamrim. But I find this more easier to understand because it's written for modern people, for contemporary thinkers like us. So linguistically, because my background is also in translation, so linguistically, I find it easier to digest, to understand for me. But this volume 4 is specifically on shamatha. So if you have time, it's also really nice to just take a look. It's more on the classical kind of, it has a more of a classical interpretations of shamatha. So this book is more like a practice manual that you can use it for practice. This book is very good. I don't know, it's also quite good, but you will find the content is different. For example, I just want to read it out to you that in this chapter, okay, and then classic Tibetan Buddhist books would have outlines, which is like a table content, and then in which you can find the specific content that you want to work on. But of course, best is to read it through and then go back to where it is. So on this title, who should meditate on which objects? Like that's really related to what we talked about yesterday. But we were only covering the breath, right? And the mind. And then, like what I mentioned yesterday, it can be any objects that in order to train shamatha, it can be any objects, right? So in this morning, I just was looking for inspiration. So I pulled out this book and thought, okay, well, that's really great. I opened the page, that's kind of good reminder that it can that really links very well to this afternoon content of shamatha, no, not analytical meditation. So I'm just going to read it out for you here. So you give it a think. You can just sit, relax way, and then just listen to the words. So Atisha explained in The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment that you meditate on whatever object is most suitable for you. Yeah. And then, in other words, the answer to this question depends on your karma and predispositions. You may be someone whose mind is powerfully dominated by attachment and anger or hatred. Or you may be someone whose primary problem is that your mind constantly wanders. You're distracted and unable to focus. So don't meditate on the first object that you hear about. Choose an object that's beneficial for your practice. So this is another reason why studying texts on shamatha is important. It will help you determine which object is most suitable for you. Okay, and Geshe also then later on talk about, okay, so what if you have a lot of attachments or hatred? Then that becomes your meditation object, right? So that's almost sounds like it's more of an analytical meditation. We can use analytical meditation skills to apply antidote to mental afflictions. Is that good so far? Yes, questions?
How could you make shamatha on nature?
Yes. Yeah, because so far we isolate this, right? We're doing shamatha to cultivate attention skills. But this attention skills needs to you need to use that attention skill, which is to use that skill of concentration to meditate on your attachment. That's analytical, right? But so that's why shamatha and analytical meditations really need to work together. Yeah, so shamatha is not, on its own is really good, that you will have calmness and you will have joy in the meditation, and then that helps. But that sharpness of the mind then is turned into object of meditation. In this case, could be the attachment or anger, or cultivating bodhicitta. So these two are working together that way. It's not separate. And when you actually, I can't talk too much like that because I don't have attainment. But let's say if you use these two skills together to meditate on emptiness, then you apply the concentration, and then you learn how to meditate on emptiness, and then they combined together, right? So that's how these two methods work together. Yeah. So on its own, it works very well, but the best is that you combine. Because have you noticed that sometimes, I don't know if you have done, I'm sure you have done a lot of analytical meditations with other teachers, right? Sometimes the mind just goes to other places that you don't know where it's going. And then after 3 minutes, you're like, oh, what is the teacher talking about? Like, I'm totally lost. Well, anyway, it happened to me and very recently. So I got lost in my own thoughts, right? That's because I lack concentration. Be able to concentrate is, then you combine it with analytical meditation. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about analytical meditation, then we go into shamatha meditation. Okay, so with analytical meditation, it's good to start with calm mind. That's why shamatha comes in, right? So you get to, whether you're sitting or walking, like get to the mind to its very relaxed but sharp state of mind. And then, for example, that's why I love this Lamrim teaching, the stages of the path, is that because it lays out the whole path for you and what to contemplate on. I can also recommend certain books later. But let's say if you want to cultivate, let's say attachment, for example, right? Let's say mental factors, the the more of the, well, we always talk about negative mental factors, but how about positive ones? Like you want to cultivate loving kindness, like based on 4 immeasurables, right? So you turn it, you use the ability to stay focused on this more like analytical meditations to come to a conclusion. Okay, so this is a very rough outline, right? So how do you do it? When you do analytical meditation, it requires logic and reasoning. Yeah. And sometimes we might have our own ideas about what bodhicitta is, or what kindness is, what loving kindness, what compassion is, but it's taught by the Shakyamuni Buddha and also a lot of commentary on these subjects, right? So best is to hear the teachings, like to maybe attend to certain teachers' teachings or read the books. There are a few books that we can recommend, and then try to digest the logics and reasoning behind it. And then when you come to meditate, so what I do is I wrote it down. I wrote down the key points of what I learned from this, either from the teachings or from the books or from online teachings. Write it down, make a few points that are really, that speak to you in the beginning. You know, we love video with 7 points and 8 points and 3 points, 4 points in this series of teachings. But remember the ones that Tara is smiling. Yes, we're struggling with so many lists, but you read the list, you find the ones that really speak to you, you know, with your personal experience, but not forgetting the whole list. Yeah. And then just contemplate on that. And when you bring to meditation, you contemplate, you think, okay, we will use some real example later. I'm just giving kind of the structure of analytical meditation. It can be any topic. It can be how to counter anger, how to see attachment, how to cultivate compassion, how to see the samsara, the disadvantages of samsara, how to renounce difficult suffering, which is renunciation. These are the topics that you can meditate on endlessly. So you bring the shamatha sharpness to examine these subjects. Well, it became the object of meditation. And then once you reach a point of, you know, you can transform your mind. Yeah. Like, for example, let's look at the fault of attachment, right? The fault of attachment is you exaggerate the certain things more, better, beautiful, and more attractive than it is. That's a textbook standard definition. But then you look, you know, you look up, you look at yourself and see, okay, so what am I attached to? It doesn't have to be an object. It could be a person, it could be an idea, it could be something, you know. If you walk down Zurich High Street, Bahnhofstrasse, there are many attractive objects. Or, you know, if you are attracted to certain person or something, ideology could be also something, you know, it looks very, you know, desirable, you know, idealistic, like in a good way to you. You examine, like, what's your relationship with this object, right? Are you exaggerating? Is it the mind seeing it being more beautiful than it is? If it is truly beautiful on its own side, on its own, how come there's some other people don't think it's beautiful, right? So you start to examine what is it that how you relate to this subject or object in this case, and what's happening with your projection, maybe with your ideas of it and your, you know, conditions. But yes, we go back to the book and first study it and read and then examine it. But most importantly is that at the end of your meditation, if you're doing a sitting meditation, come to a conclusion. Whatever the conclusion you reach at that point, you again rest on that. Rest on that. Okay, that's not very clear. That means, you know, your mind focus on that conclusion and then for maybe a few minutes, just that you create the imprints and that is soak in. And then you can end your meditation like that. That's a very quick, a structural way to do analytical meditation. And yes. And then so sometimes we go to a led class or led meditations. I've personally found myself having a discussion with a teacher, with a person who's leading it. So in my mind, of course, I don't speak up, right? Because sometimes we all have different experiences in our life. So the person that's leading it might use some examples that may not be suitable for you, or you have no experiences of, right? So it becomes difficult to relate. That's just a common thing, right? So culturally as well, linguistically, it's sometimes harder to relate that way. So ultimately, it's still best to come up with your own meditation, like analytically. Like in the beginning, we study books, we go to teachings, but you need to kind of internalize it to make it your meditation, yeah. So does that make sense? Okay, good. Then that's enough talking. That's just still do shamatha, and that's practice using the mental consciousness as the object. Is that okay with you? We kind of repeat that. Okay, yes.
Make sure I'm understanding you correctly.
Mhm.
So in an analytical meditation, you choose something you have strong attachment to. That's it, like for example, social media or something like wasting time, scrolling.
Yes.
Doom scrolling, basically. So then you maybe think about it, like, is it serving me? Is it, good? Is it this fun? And then and then you think about it analytically. Is that correct? Is that analytical meditation?
Yes. Okay, so did you hear it? Yes. Okay, the question is if, let's say, I feel I'm attached to social media, and then I spend lots of time social media and scrolling up and down, right? So is the idea to actually look at it, is it beneficial for me? And am I attached, like if I want to use it as to analyze my own attachment to social media, is that how you do it? Okay, first of all, we have textbooks that we can follow, right? But that's great. An example is like, yes, you can also use social media to look at it as to, okay, I am exaggerating the benefit of this, right? Is it really, really helpful for you? Or like, so in essence, we yes, analyze because analytical meditation is using reasoning and logic. And so you look at the many different ways to do that. But analytical meditation is not just look at attachment, right? Analytical meditation can be applied to many subjects. We can look at our mental afflictions. You can also look at the sufferings of samsara. Okay, it gets like the dissatisfactions of our samsara. Samsara means the continuous birth and rebirth, coming into the state of living, like the state of like our human state or different realm state, and then we just uncontrollably taking rebirths again without control is the problem. Like we have no control. You don't know where you're going to be born. You don't know how you're going to be born in your next life. Can we attain this human life again? And even if we can get another human rebirth, is it going to be the same conditions or not? I have a student from a class asking, well, I just can't stand it if it's going to be the same me again next life. As I cannot imagine it. No way, I don't want it. I say, well, basically you won't get the same. So there's no worries there, but then there's so much uncertainty as to where we will be. Maybe. Then you can, okay, so where we will be, then we can contemplate on, of course, when you do meditation, it's not like me now, just jumping over the place. There's a structure, okay? But more like, okay, we can also meditate on impermanence. Where will we be, right? So we can think, okay, so this moment and there's next moment and there's next moment. Where are we going to be? Sometimes death comes before your next breath. So we can also use death impermanence as the object of meditation. And that's analytical meditation. Again, you come up, first we study and see, okay, you know, what does Lama Tsongkhapa said? What does His Holiness said? But they are all rooted in scriptures and not just making up stories. So we can first read the relevant literatures, or you have a teachers, you follow the teachings, hear the teachings, and then you analyze it and see, okay, what makes sense to you? And then you can even make footnotes. Okay, for me, this is the notes. You know, that's why we have commentaries of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings, because how many 100 years ago, right? We live totally a different life. So we need also, like Holiness Dalai Lama, has two thick books on Lam Rim. So that would be a really good starting point, that you can start reading that, and then you can come up with, like, okay, if you agree, you memorize, because I think a lot of us are still young, not me. You can start memorizing these points, so when you sit down and you can meditate without reading. But you know, I sometimes have to get reminders, so I wrote it down and say, okay, who said this? I say, and then what do I think of that? So you meditate. Analytical meditation is really using this ability to reason. And then, but what's important is at the end of your meditation session, you make a conclusion, and then use the ability of your concentration, your shamatha ability, to really focus on that conclusion, and that you don't think of anything else but that conclusion, and that will make that kind of transformation of the mind more effective. Is that good? Okay, one more question here. Yes.
Always to be about Dharma question, or could it also be about another question?
Here, yes, it's more of a Dharma question. Like but the ability is the same. You know, like you when you're at work, you also need to have a reasoning mind and analytical mind, right? But we just use that mind to actually get good understandings of Dharma. So somehow we use the term analytical meditation is really just in the context of Dharma. Yes, yes.
Can I emphasize the Lamring from FPMT? There's a whole 1 year Lamring. I think if people, I mean, you know it better, but I think it's really great. And we have every Tuesday, and every second Tuesday together on the Lava part with Dara. And we go through the Lamring. If that helps, I mean,
yes.
I think it could help.
Yeah, we used to do Lamring 365 days of Lamrim, based on Lama Zopan Poche and Lama Yeshe's book. Yeah, so there's a lot of resources. Yes.
And we're still doing that bi-weekly.
Yes. So Tara is leading the meditation every Tuesday online.
Every other Tuesday.
Every other Tuesday, yes. So feel free to join. Yes. Thank you for the reminder. Thanks, Tara. Good. Yeah. So that go through that book from day one. Yeah. So it's 365 days. So Tara is really good at giving homework. Say, okay, you read this page to that page, and we come together to meditate. I think this is the second round. We did it 1 year, and then this is the second year. Yeah, and maybe next year we do it together. So yeah, there's a lot of topics to meditate on, and I would recommend, yes, using a structure of Lamrim to do that, and because it takes you really from the beginning to the end. And yeah, so that's very helpful in that way. Okay, good. So that's meditate. So I would still think, shall we just continue with shamatha so we have, make it more deeper in our experience that we spend this week? Okay. Wow, that's 30 minutes of talk. A lot. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so we spoke quite a lot about different types of meditations and different objects of meditations. And so very kind of productive in the way that we, this exchange is very, very helpful. But now we spend the next 25 minutes, 24 minutes on shamatha, more like using the skill of shamatha, cultivating concentration. And I think we spoke quite a lot about what kind of objects that we can choose. So I think, and most of you are very experienced already. So I will invite you to, again, take a few deep breaths, settle the body, and to be sure that you have a very nice posture, which is stable. Yeah, because it's 25 minutes, so you want to be as still as possible without any stress. And then, so yeah, take a few moments to do that. Then also see if there's any tensions in the body. And you can even use the breath to help. For example, with inhalation, you think, you recall your motivation. With exhalation, you let go any tensions in the body, whether it's in the knees or in the thighs, when you're sitting, or on the face, your jaws, your eyebrows, your neck, your shoulders. And just with intention to tell your muscles to relax. Then we look at our mental state. See if it's too tight or too loose, too dull or too excited. Tight could be excitement, right? That you have a lot of thoughts, unstoppable thoughts. Too loose could be the dullness, like there's no sharpness, there's no clarity. To the point that you fall asleep. So if you notice that, also address that. And how do we address that? If you have a lot of thoughts, maybe it's good to focus on the breath. With each breath, just, brings the mind back to the breath, and you have an anchor. So if you have a lot of thoughts, maybe choose breath as your meditation object. And if you have dullness, maybe choose to open your eyes and look at, just gaze gently at one point without watching. Just more like gently resting your eyesight. So then once you settle in, then make a determination of for the next 20 minutes or so, no, 18 minutes or so, my object of meditation is, and then I will apply mindfulness, which is not to forget the object, as well as introspection or vigilance, that if my mind wanders away from that object, I will bring it back. And just simply practice like that. And the effort to make the mind back to that object is already meditation. So be at ease. And then we will practice in silence. And slowly, slowly release your object by expanding your awareness to your body, your entire body, or the space that you're in. And start to allow other senses to, receive information such as sights, feeling, and then slowly come out. Good. Good. If you need some stretches, we can do that. And I think it comes to the end of the morning session, right? So we take a lunch break for an hour, and then we're back in 1 o'clock here in Zurich. Depends on where you are.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be 1 o'clock here too.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll see you later. Have a nice break.
Thank you, Tahlia.
Thank you.